Welcome to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. This is not your typical financial radio show. As a licensed CPA, insurance agent, and investment advisory representative, Chris coaches his clients on a holistic view of financial well-being with an objective of providing a complete financial strategy to fund life's goals. Chris is here to guide you down the path to the financial serenity you deserve. Now, here's Chris Cooper.
All right, folks, good morning. Happy Easter Sunday, April the 20th, Easter Sunday. And in with me today in studio, one of my good friends. I've known Dan Tripp for quite a long time with Good News Brewing. Dan, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dan, I know a lot about your story. We actually met through triathlon, and you know, you actually were home brewing.
Yeah.
So what got you into brewing beer?
Well, I guess since it's, Easter, we'll talk about, that, he is risen.
Yeah.
Right. He is risen indeed. And we've been involved in our faith in Christ for my entire life. And I've always been mission driven. There's different ways of sharing the good news. Some people are very comfortable walking people's doors and asking them, do you know Christ? I'm not that comfortable. I like to do it more with our actions. So my wife and I were very involved in mission works. We would go to Honduras. We would go and, help build churches and wells and stoves inside people's homes to just be the church, to get out there. During Hurricane Katrina, we would go out to that area and did a lot of work there. Anyway, the church made a movement of we're going to start being local missions. So let's start sharing the good news outside of our walls of our church. And that became kind of our movement of what my family started. I have 5 kids, so it became kind of hard to travel internationally to Honduras. So we started focusing on local missions.
Kids get in the way of these kind of travels,
do, right?
Yeah, but they're all great. So
we started doing local missions. We started doing some homeless ministries and serving some. There's a hotel here that has a lot of homeless people that live there, and so we started serving breakfast to them. And I'm not going to get into the whole story here. I've shared that in the past at some of our Easter services, but the direction we were going with our church kind of changed, and so we kind of separated there. And when we back up here, I've always wanted to open a restaurant. I always wanted to open a pizza restaurant, and that was my goal when I retire from being a teacher, which I still am today. But then I learned about brewing beer, and I was like, oh, that'd be really cool to do beer, our own beer and pizza. And so I started learning how to make beer, and the goal was to be good at making beer and to have a little brew pub with pizza. Well, again, when I retire, I got okay at it, not great. But then I joined lots of communities and would homebrew clubs. Anyway, Matt Fair, who's my business partner.
Yep.
He joined my Bible study at our house, and we were doing a book study, a book called Flesh by Hugh Halter. He's a pastor, and his kind of mission of this book was to, don't focus just on inviting people to church, and instead invite people to build community. Invite people to your house, use your own communities, and he had a pub in his house, and he would invite people to his house and just hang out and get to know each other and share good news.
Very nice.
So we started doing that. So Matt and I was like, well, we both had this intentions of opening up our own brew pub someday. And we knew that we needed to brew in barrels. So in home brewing, you brew in gallons, but in the professional world, you brew in barrels, which is about 31 gallons.
Okay.
And so if you can do 1 barrel batch, you can convert that to a 7 or 100 barrel batch. It's easy.
Now, I've known you guys since you were brewing out of Matt Fair's basement.
Absolutely, yep.
As well. Now, that was the gallon method, or were you in barrels then?
So in the beginning, we were doing gallons, but then after we read this book, we upgraded our system, did a 1 barrel system, and would invite people to brew with us. We'd have a brew party in his basement once a month where we would brew all this beer, we would give away beer to people. So it was kind of, I think that when I met you during triathlon story of my life. We were kind of transitioning in between them.
Yeah.
And it was great because, we had so much beer because we were making 30 gallons of it at a time that we had to give it away to people. And
which spread the good news, so to speak, as well.
Yeah.
So.
We would take this to different organizations would have a nonprofit event, and we would be there to provide beer as a donation.
Yeah.
And it's funny because whenever we were just homebrewers, we would take beers to the triathlon clubs and the groups, and people were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is good. This is nice. This is okay." But it wasn't until we officially, decided to do something.
I was one of the ones that was really excited about it, by the way, the whole time. But I'm a huge craft beer guy, so
yeah. And so then we started brewing beer and we got this niche and we're like, okay, we've got to do something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of right when after I did my triathlon, did the full Ironman in Chattanooga, and at the end of 2016,
it was really hot that day.
It was 98 degrees.
We shouldn't talk about that.
We should not.
No. It was like a heat index of 106 or something nonsensical.
Did you do that race? Did you finish that race?
Yeah, with Stacy side by side the whole time.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Half the people who registered didn't finish.
It was a big melee. It was not fun. Not a great day. But it was for us. That's okay.
And I almost quit. I almost gave up.
It's a tough one.
And the reason I didn't is because I wanted a tattoo. Because I knew I couldn't get the Ironman tattoo if I didn't finish the race.
Yeah.
So I finished the race, and then I got the tattoo. And then the day I got my tattoo was the day that some of the guys in the club invited me to hey, we want to see your tattoo. We're going to go to Friendship Brewing. And I was so tired because my tattoo's pretty big. I was on that bed for all day long.
Yeah.
And I was just exhausted. I was like, you know what? They want to see it. I don't want to post it on Facebook. I want them to actually see it. And
sure.
So, I was like, all right, I'll go meet with you. So I went to Friendship because I'd never been there. There's a brewery that just opened up probably, 6-8 months
and
before.
Those are good folks over there,
Absolutely,
too.
Yeah. And I knew all of them from the Homebrew Club. And so I went there, and I was there with all of our friends from the Triathlon Club. And some of the guys who brew beer there saw me like, Dan, hey, we haven't seen you in so long. Because I kind of left that community because I was focusing on training.
It's a full-time job.
You can't be in those two communities. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And the homebrew community is a bunch of guys who are making beer and drinking beer all the time. And where the triathlon community is a little opposite of that.
Well, you and I tried to balance.
We did.
I don't know how well we did it either.
We did our fair share of, and that's the great thing about triathletes and most endurance athletes is they like the craft beer.
Yeah.
So that night at Friendship, the guys invited me back to look at the brewery, and I'm walking through there, and I'm like, this is my dream. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, your epiphany.
And I was like, if you guys did this, and I just finished an Ironman,
feeling invincible.
I can do this.
There you go. Yeah.
The very next day, I went to Design to Brew, which was the homebrew supply store that we had we were buying it all now.
Sure.
Now it's Crossroads Brewery. Went in there, talked to the owners. We were their number one customers because we were buying sacks of grains. And I asked them, hey, that space next door is for lease. How much does that even cost? And she's like, well, you can't take that space over because we just took the lease over that. We're going to turn that into a brew pub, but we can't make enough beer. Would you guys want to brew beer for us? I'm like, absolutely. What does that mean? She's like, well, you just need a name and, an LLC. I'm like, that's awesome. So I went to Matt. I'm like, hey, guess what? We can start brewing with Design to Brew. But do you know what an LLC is? And he's like, no, I don't. Can we form one? Yeah. So we then had to come up with a name.
It's really simple. It's a limited liability corporation.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You got this now. That's all you need to know, folks.
Well, it ends up you can just go on the Missouri State and register it. I mean,
that's the basic premise.
The right way.
It's a little bit more complicated if you do it the right way, but it's not bad. That's the first step, though, really.
And luckily, if you make a mistake, you can have attorneys help you fix it out.
That's true.
And CPAs. So.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So we needed a name now, and so we were kicking around all kinds of different names, and through a series of text messages and messaging back and forth. Josh, who's not with us anymore, said something about he was having some complications with an unborn child, and said something like we could use some good news, and that just stuck because that's what we were about was making beer and sharing good news. And so we had the name, we created the logo, created the website, and then we were off to the races.
Yeah, well, and then you just needed to figure out your food staple, which I got to tell you, I'm a little bit. This is my little claim to fame with Good News Brewing is I had pizzas at my Super Bowl party from Dan while he was perfecting his brick oven pizza recipe.
Yep, absolutely. So that was 2017 because we finished the Ironman in 2016.
Yeah,
Things happened very fast.
they did.
Because we finished the Ironman at the end of September. We formed our LLC in November of 2016, had the name, logo, and then things changed so much because now we made it public that we're going to be opening up we're going to be selling beer and, had the name, the logo, and now everyone wanted our beer. Where I was Dan, the home brewer, people really didn't care. But now that we had a logo and a name, people were rallied around the entrepreneurs and we're like, yeah, this is good. It's great. I get to, know someone. The space, and we brewed a little bit with Design to Brew, but then that relationship went south because they wanted to sell. They obviously sold to, Crossroads. So then we were like, all right, we need our own space. So that was very difficult finding space and finding loans when you have no experience. So I'm a teacher. Matt is in the car, industry. So we would go to these retail spaces on Highway K, and they didn't want anything to do with us.
Yeah.
We're
just, they want to see your financials. They want to see what's supporting it, collateral, all that good stuff, right?
And exactly. We had none of that. And we had
I just want to, make some pizzas and, serve some beers.
And it was scary because they really didn't know what it was. And we don't want another bar in our, strip center. So we went to another place up in North O'Fallon. It used to be the old Hot Shots, and they were interested in having us there. Brought the city in, they walked us through, and they're like, well, you're going to need a fire sprinkler system here. And that's going to be $80,000. Like, we don't have that much money. And so he's like, why don't you go up the street? Tammy just bought this laundromat, and there's this little space next door. She's looking at leasing that. And so I went up there, I looked at it, peeked through the windows. I'm like, this place is way too small. This won't work out. This will never work out. I called her up. I was like, you know what? I'm just curious what she wants for it. And it's like, hey, this is Dan, Good News Brewing Company. We're opening a brew pub and in O'Fallon area, and just wanted to know, like, what are you wanting to rent this space out? And she's like, I don't know. We're thinking like $700 like a month. She's like, yep. Like, we'll take it. I don't know how we're going to figure this out. It's way too small for us, but it actually was perfect for us because it was, we only had our little 1-barrel brew system.
Yeah.
Kevin and Tammy got to hear our story. They knew what we were about. They're like, I love what you guys are doing. They said, we'll give you free rent if you build this place out. So that's just unbelievable that, and I step back, is like God's been in control of all of these things that have happened and have allowed all these things that just shouldn't have happened. I talked to many people, so we got the space now. So now we need money, and we don't have, any money at all. So we start calling banks like, hey, this is Dan, Good News Brewing Company, going to open the first brew pub in O'Fallon.
Who's this company again?
Yeah, exactly. And they would ask questions like, okay, how many years of professional brewing experience do you have?
Yeah.
None. How much restaurant experience do you have? I was like, well, I worked at McDonald's in high school. That's about it. And they're like, what kind of collateral do you have? And I swear to you, I said, like, what do you mean collateral? Like my kids or my house or what?
Do those count as collateral? Can you do that?
And they said, I'll call you back. And they never called us back.
Yeah.
And so I like, all right, who do I know that's in banking? And I was like, all right, there's a guy that I went to college with. He does he's a banker. I have no idea. I had no clue what he does. So I went, sat down, told him our story, pitched to him. And he's like, how are you looking for? And I was like, we don't know, probably $60,000, $70,000. He's like, okay, we'll do it. And I'm like, really? Like what? He's like, like how much? He's like, we'll do all of it. I'm like, really? He's like, Dan, I've been watching you. I've been following you, with your Ironman journey. He's like, I know you're not a quitter. And so that was another moment of God working, showing that there's just a lot of grit that you have to do, that people are there.
That community you've been a part of along the way.
People are there to cheer you on and to help you and support you.
Yeah.
So they gave us some funding. We needed some additional funding. So we used like Home Depot credit loans, which actually is, believe it or not, one of the best interest rates out there.
Yeah.
A Home Depot construction project loan.
Yeah. Well, you have to be creative when you're starting things off.
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of it. Is how can you get so creative? And clearly it's worked. I mean, how many locations are you up to now?
Now we have 4 locations
currently.
Currently, a 5th one, hopefully opening here in a month.
And that's the Wildwood location,
Wildwood, yeah.
which is it's pretty cool. I mean, that's something that's new to that area and in a really neat area for it too.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and I mean, once we opened up the O'Fallon location, we were selling more beer than we could physically make.
Yeah.
So we had to use another brewery to make our beer for us. And again, because we had a little small 1-barrel system that we had in our house, and we didn't take any money out of the business. We kept in the business. Yeah. We were still doing our full-time jobs. A place opened up in Defiance on the Katy Trail, because a lot of at that point it was interesting, because a lot of our triathlete friends switched from doing triathlons to start doing gravel riding.
Yeah, gravel,
mountain biking.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect switch, because they were riding down on this gravel ride. They're like, dude, there's this place right on the trail that would be awesome for you. It's a barbecue place going out of business. And so we went to the bank, submitted this. They saw our work, they saw our numbers, and like, you guys are killing it.
Yeah.
We'll. So we did an SBA loan there, and so we were able to buy the building, able to buy all the equipment.
And I still remember the Facebook post of you getting your first big brewing system.
Yeah.
You know, I don't tank barrel. What is it called?
Yeah. Fermenters,
tanks, tanks.
Brew
I don't
system.
know.
Brew
the things
house.
that look cool when I go into a place.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh. So you must have been like a kid in a candy shop when
God.
you got those things coming in.
It was a day I'll never forget. Like, it was just, I remember just seeing the truck pulling down. I was like, this is it. This is
it's super cool.
This is it for us.
And so at the Defiance location, while we're talking about Defiance, one of the things that with Easter Sunday and the things we're talking about here, and I know your faith and what brings you in is the community, you do a lot in the Defiance location. One of the things you do is a Christmas service as well, so talk a little bit about that, because I always look forward to that each year.
Yeah. So I think in it started in O'Fallon, our first, because, I was out of the church, but I still missed church, and I wanted to be a part of a church. And we just, one day we're like, where are you going Christmas Eve? I don't know. Where are you going? I don't know. It's like, why don't we just do a Christmas Eve service here? Like, we'll invite some friends and people and hang out. And we did a Christmas Eve service, and the place just filled up, and it was standing room only.
Yeah.
And so then when we bought a couple of years when we bought the Defiance location, we said, all right, let's do one down here. And again, before we were even open, the place was filled up with people who wanted to be a part of it. So we started doing.
Wasn't it snowing that first one too?
It
was beautiful.
Yeah,
I remember it was just a really magical experience.
Yeah,
so.
it was neat, because I mean we weren't even open, but the place was already a restaurant bar before, and so we brought beer down there, and it was just giving away free beer, and glad people were there to spend the evening with us. And so I think it's people. There's people who will never step foot in a church, but they're happy to come into a brewery, and they still want to worship God, and it's been a blessing for us to be able to share the good news.
Well, and it's a different way of sharing the good news, which I think is, everyone has to find their own unique way of being spiritual and thinking about those things. And so you've been able to create that and that sense of community, which I know is important to you. Yep. So obviously what's next for good news? We've got Wildwood, right? And that's probably the topic now.
Yeah, so we've been fortunate. The bank that we use, St. John Bank here in St. Charles, they have been just a blessing to us. The EDC in St. Charles with the SBA, the 504 plan, has been a great growth.
And these are all things that you knew all along, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When they said they needed projections, I'm like, what are those?
It's so fun when I get to talk to business owners about all this stuff, because, you just want to brew beer and make some pizzas.
Yep, right.
The last thing you're thinking of is funding, bank relationships, financials,
right.
Gosh forbid, like healthcare benefits and retirement plans and all this other stuff that become after that, legal things. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Luckily, there's resources out there. And so they kind of directed us to the EDC. That's how we got involved with them, and they helped us. I was like, I need a business plan. I have no idea how to write one at all. And so they helped us with that. So we were able to then.
This was pre-Chat GPT days as well.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's been. So yeah, I guess we COVID was a very interesting thing for us, because we opened up in 2019 in Defiance, and then 2020 we're like, all right, we're gonna crush it this year, and then COVID happened, but actually it became one of the best things for us, because we were on the trail, and all the the cyclists were out.
Cycling was got to be a big thing. And you have a very open area in Defiance as well, which makes it easy for that. And quite frankly, St. Charles County was a little bit more lax than other counties as well.
Mm-hmm. And so we were, we outgrew our physical brewing space, so we needed a bigger brewery. And so we bought the Augusta Brew House and built a brew system there, or built a full brewery there. And
which is a super cool location right up there on the hills and everything too. So,
and then we opened up another location in Frenchtown in 2022. It's a cool museum. It's kind of on the Katy Trail. It's pretty close. You can actually ride your bike to there from all of our other locations. And then we kind of took a pause and we're like, all right, let's just kind of get kind of settled with some things, and stop buying new locations, because every time we buy something, it just it's been tough.
Well, it becomes you have to focus on that, and it's just takes some time, right?
Yeah, because it's not. And so now we finally got the accounts built up. We're like, all right, let's do another growth. There's this Wildwood's always been a kind of on our mind. A lot of our cyclist friends, a lot of our triathlon friends are from that Wildwood area. For some reason, that's just an area that attracts a lot of cyclists. And when I asked people, I was like, where should we open the next Good News? And a lot of people said Wildwood.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at that location for a while. There was the West County Feed Store that was a 3-acre lot there. It was been for sale for a while. They lowered the price, and we took a step towards it, and went back to the SBA loan, and the banks were like, all right, yeah, we'll fund this.
Credibility now,
so
right?
we, so between 2017 to now 2025, we've been able to,
that's 8
grow
years,
to 5 locations, and we own, 4 of those with the bank. And so that's, we were just featured in Sauce Magazine about, our growth, and they called us an empire, right? We're the empire of craft beer in St. Louis. And when I talked in that interview, I was like, well, it's because we own the assets. We've been able to, we buy the buildings, the McDonald's model of, we own the real estate, where we get to operate. So we're not in, no landlord can tell us what we can and can't do. And so now we're going to keep growing.
I like
and
that control aspect of things.
We definitely need that. And so we were like, all right, let's keep growing, but we're done using our own money, because every time we get a little money, it goes to real estate, and we're still not taking it to ourselves yet. And so it needs to change. We need to start, providing our own wealth. And so we feel like the next best growth model is through franchising.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been pursuing the franchise process, which has been a whole new, what is a franchise disclosure document? What is a franchise agreement?
It's crazy. All the different things, the nuances.
Yep. Which is the fun part is growing and learning all these new things.
Right.
And so we do have a franchise in the works, and really soon we'll be announcing, some of those locations that we're going to be opening.
It's exciting stuff. Now, I know the family's also involved in everything as well. Not just your family, but also Matt's family as well. So it's a family-run business in many aspects that cares about the community.
Yeah, it's 100% family-run business. So my wife does all of our supply chains. Matt is kind of oversees the operations. His fiancée Laura does all of our events and communications. His daughter Haley is managing, hopefully going to be multiple locations. His son Bryce is running a location. Laura's daughter is running a location. My son's, running a location. So they want to grow the business with us. And so that's we don't need to start thinking about, our succession plan is turning it over to them.
Yeah.
And we will, that's another reason for the franchise process, is that we can sell them franchises. We can buy the real estate, they can own and operate it, or eventually if they take over locations, then we still own the real estate, and our retirement can be built on our real estate, not just the stock market.
Yeah, well, and that's important, especially in volatile markets like this. You have to be diversified, right? So Dan, thank you so much for coming in on Easter Sunday episode here, where we get to talk about, we didn't really talk about IRAs too much, but I always like to say, hey, we could do a whole show on IRAs and IPAs. Dan.
There we go.
So that'll be a whole nother topic. We could do this for a long time. So Dan, thank you so much for coming and helping to spread the good news to the communities that we're part of.
Thanks, my pleasure.
All right, buddy. All right, so Dan Tripp creating an empire along with his partner, Matt Fair. in the brewing industry right here in St. Louis. Quite interesting, right? We've had a few empires of breweries in the St. Louis area, but it's really nice to see how they've been able to really add to the community that they're a part of at Good News. And it is so cool when you think about how businesses progress, right? You go from, having another job or working part-time or working full-time and then creating that hobby that you have a passion about, and how it all of a sudden morphs into something that really is an objective. It's a goal. It's something that you dream about and becomes that passion that then becomes something that actually adds value to other people's lives. And that journey is something we see with a lot of business owners. And it's crazy. We have to think about things differently. We have to think about, all of those little items that we take for granted when we are working and have, jobs, all the departments that handle their little tasks. Well, when you are starting a business, guess what? You have to figure out the legal side of things. You have to figure out the financial side of things. You have to be the CFO. You have to be the accountant. You have to be the manager. And quite frankly, all people want to do if you're a brewer is, make good beer and make some good pizzas as well. And fortunately, Dan does a good job in those areas. And watching Matt and Dan do what they've done has been absolutely amazing to be a part of and see that progression. And really, it's all about that community, that sense of community that has been able to be part of that mission throughout. And that's what we see with a lot of business owners. You have that mission, you have that objective of how you help people, how you add value to the communities you're part of. And usually if you do the right things and you bring that community message into what you're trying to do, it resonates. And those things, that passion you bring to the table resonates to success. And so those businesses that do progress get those things in place. And all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, what now? What am I not thinking of? What do I need to think of differently? Well, that's where some of the things like trademarking comes into play. Protection comes into play. Am I saving for myself effectively from a retirement planning perspective, right? Those are the things we focus on here at Serenity Wealth to help that business owner community. Because all of a sudden, you're thinking about generations and you're thinking about that succession. You're thinking about that what if, and you're thinking about that where do I go from here? And all of these questions are things you have to have a plan for. And when things start out, you don't know what your plan is. Your first plan is probably just to sell some pizzas and brew a good beer, right? But eventually, things progress to a point where you need to make those bigger, more impactful decisions for your business because it's outgrown. It's become something that's an entity in and of itself. And those are awesome conversations to see people have that success. But it all does start with that community. And I know at Serenity Wealth, we create that community ourselves. That's a big thing that we're big believers in. That's why we have a little bar in the office. We have some socials where clients come in, get to hang out, have some good news breweries, have some other breweries that beers that we keep on tap, because it's about that part of that community. That St. Louis is a really nice, small atmosphere that's in a big town, right? And it's really neat that that's prevalent in a lot of the business owner conversations we have. Because it doesn't always have to just be about, enjoying. It's about enjoying what you do. It really is. It's sure people want to be successful, but it starts with creating that sense of community, that sense of involvement, and that fun, and spreading the news that's important to you. And in Good News situation, that is religion, that is faith, that is spirituality, and it is prevalent to everything they do. But that passion is something that drives every single business owner. It's what we're all about here at Serenity Wealth Management, and we'd be happy to see how we can help add some value, some clarity, and some peace of mind to your planning as well. So until next week, enjoy Easter with your family, and we will talk to you next week. See you soon.
Serenity Now!
This is Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Request a free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, by visiting SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Serenity Now!